Hello, Michael Chambers here again. Um, I've mentioned a few times before, I do believe in the idea that blessed are the merciful, for they shall have mercy shown them, and I've certainly forgiven anybody in Opus Dei or who hasn't believed me or has who's made life difficult for me in bringing to light things in Opus Dei and the church that need to be brought to light. Okay, so whatever happens on that forgiveness is genuine, and nobody is beyond hope, nobody at all. And I know myself when I started to go straight, as it were, when I forgave fully, and I realized I had to start doing things right. I started to panic. I thought, oh God, I have to sort of cleanse myself in great detail, sackcloth and ashes and whatever. And actually, that's too hard, and you end up being paralyzed. You end up over scrupulous, and you can't do anything. Okay, and so I gradually realized that. And then when I started to realize I needed to change my life around, I still kept on doing things. Um, I still kept on. I didn't just go into a desert and, cleanse myself spiritually every day by fasting, whatever. God showed me that well, one of the things I had to do in order to get my frustrations out, because when you suddenly go from being a very angry person to a loving person, you've still got all that nature in you. It might not be anger about your own hurt, but it's still there. And so God said to me, you know what, you can pour that into the Opus Dei campaign. There's some bad actors in Opus Dei, I think hopefully becoming good actors who deserve that, and some other bad actors too. And so you've got to work through your body. The flesh is the hinge of salvation. You've got to express your feelings, so express them on the bad actors, and God can guide you down the road or where you should express them. Okay. And in that process, then as long as you keep that idea of being merciful to others, as God has been merciful to you, then you do keep open the door of forgiveness, the door of mercy, which I've always done, despite the vociferousness of my campaign. On an individual level, there's nobody I think should be thrown into hell forever. Nobody, and God doesn't think that either. So he never has. But it can seem like that, and it can seem like we deserve that sometimes. And sometimes God lets us think that, for a long time until we're trained. So I think Saint Augustine had that idea. I think anyway, you have that notion that you can be in hell forever, and then God will lift you out of it. But anyway, what happens? It's important to be using our talents, and so one of the things that I would love to do, if everything's sorted out with Opus Dei people, is to work with them on first of all rescuing the people that we agree, um, or not rescuing, but opening the door to 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 freedom and autonomy for the people in Opus Dei who aren't free enough. Okay, and letting them get the help they need, and then obviously dealing with the legacy, the justice requirements. People still hurt who have left as well. People still hurting, needing support. People stuck without medical fees, stuck in old age with big expenses that they can't afford because they've spent so long in Opus Dei, working for free. But anyway, and so there's a big legacy, but the people who are responsible for the mess may not be the best people to pick up the pieces because well, they probably aren't, to be honest, because they're going to have to come clean themselves, and that'd be a painful process. But at the same time, they can be helping in other areas. Okay, so there are people who are doing some really bad things outside Opus Dei. Lots and lots of abuse rings and terrible things going on. And just think about how influential top people in Opus Dei could be to work to break those down. To work with people like me to to deal with other areas. Okay. So that would be good. I've worked 2 years on this whistleblowing campaign, so I've got a little bit of experience, but of this particular slice of the world, let's say. I used to say slice of hell, but let's call it the slice of the world. And so, so I think that there's some experience I could bring with, at the same time, not letting people not oppressing people. I'd hate the idea of like being on top of people all the time, like controlling them and you gotta get back to me and and then phoning them up and following them up and harassing them and not letting them do. I had a boss like that once, and I was just nervous. I went to bits. I had pretty limited skills. It was in a kitchen. Um, I had pretty limited skills, but I was a quivering wreck when he was supervising me. One of his other teammates was much more relaxed. So I think it's key that you find an area where you can work under somebody, and they can instruct you, and they can tell you, look, you're going too much. You're too controlling here. Let go. Have a rest. Have a break. Okay, you got to look after yourself, number one. So first of all, if you want to change, if people in Opus Dei realize they need to go straight, okay, they need to do something practical to get set the hairs running, set the traps out. So if the people in Opus Dei in their heart of hearts, okay, say, you know what, this guy Michael, he's not such a bad guy. He said some good things. We can't deny it. Okay, that'll be really, really helpful, not just for me, but so many people who probably have been badgered endlessly. I don't know. I haven't seen any letters from anybody, but I'm just guessing. There's been a lot of correspondence going around saying this Michael's a mental person or crazy, or even evil. I don't know. And just it was just a little meeting to shake hands and say, look, hey, just even a photo shoot or whatever, a tiny press conference outside a pub. No details, just saying we're really sorry. We didn't trust Michael. We know we've met him now. We realise he's a good guy. We realise his points are right. We've got to start acting. We've got to start bringing other people in to help us. We've got to start using our energies together to help other people who are in perhaps greater need, and leave the people in the Catholic Church who were looking after people in need alone. So um, and that would be really, really nice, wouldn't it? We're all Catholics, we're all Christians, we're all good people together. And it would be so lovely if I could shake hands with the right person in Opus Dei in London, outside a pub, like a Nigel Farage press conference where like, oh, everyone's having a good beer and we're all matey English people together. That sort of thing. I could get a high vis jacket, and I don't know, whatever. But it's just being silly. Something meaningful that makes sure that we take action to make sure that everybody's starting to work to get people released in Opus Dei, okay? And that I can assure people of that I've heard enough, okay, and I've seen enough. I've got enough evidence that that's not going to be any bullshit going on, okay. And that won't be. I won't go easy on that. I will be absolutely demanding, okay. But that can be behind the scenes, and the public one can be. Yeah, I've heard them now, and I believe them. We've talked about this enough to know that now things are in action, okay. And they can say we were wrong about Michael, and we want to work with him. He's got some ideas to help other people. We want to work with him on that as equals, okay. Nobody supervising each other, no structures of control and accountability and whatever. Just you picking up the phone, getting on the phone to people, using our influence, using our personality to make a difference. Okay, if only all the people inside the Catholic Church started to work with each other, how much good could we do? First of all, to the people inside the Catholic Church who are in need, and secondly to the wider society. It would be wonderful, isn't it? And I've just put that down that gauntlet. Okay, can we not just bury the hatchet? Be honest. I've done my work in myself. I think probably 99%. Maybe there's a few bits. So I'm free enough that I'm not going to be like massively affected. I'm not going to be needing any kind of floods of tears or apologies. No, I just want us to get down to business. I'm needing something to do now. I feel like I've set the hairs in motion and I've done enough to to get things going, and now it's time for unity, for mercy, for cooperation, for harmony, for seeing the bigger picture of all the things we could do in the world out there at the same time as dealing with ourselves. And sometimes that's the best way. I've had a lot of isolation, so I've dealt with a lot of my stuff by myself because I haven't had, I don't know, God's led me into that wilderness to really work on me individually. Okay, a few people need that, but most people will get their growth, their inner development, their inner healing through doing good things in an area that they where they've where they haven't done any bad things, and at the same time, then they start to reckon up to stuff where they were doing things wrong. But it's a process, day by day, stepping out of our comfort zone a little bit more each day, a little bit more, not becoming a hero overnight. If you feel paralyzed, you're probably wanting to do too much too soon, and so there's a process there. Trust the process. Trust God. That God has got everybody's back. God, there's nobody on earth or anywhere in the underworld or anybody that's beyond God's mercy. Okay, so anyway, maybe that's a theological heresy for Catholics, but I certainly believe it, and I would love it if everybody believed it and lived it. You start living that idea, then you might believe it, because that's what we really want at the end of the day. Nobody really wants to send people to hell forever. So if we just have that approach that I don't want to go to hell forever. I don't want anybody to go to hell forever. Maybe that's how God is. God is, maybe that can help. There's plenty of there's plenty of scripture and tradition in the early church and things like Origen and others who you can look back on and think and find. There's even the Book of Wisdom's got some stuff on the universal salvation. Everyone will be spared, something like that. Anyway, thank you for listening to my rant again.